lovely people, Nina here. So this week when I was just scrolling mindlessly on TikTok, as one does, and going through YouTube, I saw quite a few people talking about the concept of are books political, and I thought it'd be really interesting to talk about for today's video because there were a few different people on the app who were talking about how they don't think that books should be political and that we shouldn't bring the idea of politics into books and we should just read. But that within itself is political, and they were just saying essentially that it shouldn't be political, we should just be talking about books. But the issue with that is that books themselves are political, and reading and the idea of having access to a book and access to language and access to be able to read are all political. So, no, books just are inherently themselves political, and yeah, politics goes along with books. Women weren't even allowed to publish books or be recognized as publishers until the 19th century, and even then women would publish under a man's name or have their husband's name published for them. So even if you look at the history of books and reading, it's all political, even if you're not reading a quote-unquote political book. One of my favorite books that I've read this year is Water for Elephants. I've talked about it on here multiple times. And that even is political because it's happening during the Great Depression, and the idea of pay and wage gaps and ranking of the ultra elite and the lower class. And it's not a book that's inherently about politics, I guess, but it's a political book. The theme is political. And I saw a lot of people too, I'm not a big fantasy reader, but I saw a lot of people too talking about different fantasy books, and their themes are all political. And you look at the Hunger Games, where again it's a class issue and it's the upper elite and the lower class and rebelling and the class structure, which is all in itself political. So I just thought it was really interesting that people were trying to say that they wanted to just read books and not talk about politics or not deal with politics, because that's not possible. Because books themselves are inherently political. And language is political, and writing is political. So also the idea of banning books, I've talked about this a few times on my channel, but especially in the US, being in the US, book banning is such a huge thing right now, and so many books are being banned when they shouldn't be. They should allow people to read freely. The idea that such great writing and such great stories are being sheltered from students at schools just because someone doesn't like some type of theme is frustrating and shouldn't be a thing. We shouldn't be banning books. We should be encouraging people to read. So the fact that these creators were I don't think we should be talking about politics, we should just be talking about books, but then when we're not allowing people to read the books that you're talking about, that's political and can't escape politics in books. So all of that being said, this week the book that I've been reading, which is kind of funny, I hadn't really planned on talking about this as much, but I saw it online and it was just the idea, it was just bothering me that people just weren't looking into it enough. of the history of books and the history of reading and writing and publishing and like all of that, because it's all political. But this week, speaking of political books, I'm reading 1984, the graphic novel. Oh my gosh, this is so good. This is so good. I have never read 1984. I feel like most people read it in high school. I did not. But I love it. If you don't know what 1984 is about, it's essentially about like Big Brother and like censorship. The main character is a guy named Winston, and he is just miserable because he goes to his little like house, and he goes to work and he goes to eat, and then it's like the same cycle all over again, but he's constantly being watched, and he constantly has to do, there's like the thought police too, and so he constantly has to be aware of like what he's saying, what he's doing, and all of that, because he's constantly on TV, like screens. This is so good. I'm not quite done with it yet. I'm on 53. My bookmark in it is from the ALA, and it says Let Freedom Read. Fitting. So this is like chapter 6, I guess. This is really cool. The thing about this is, with like a few of the graphic novels that I've read, they've had, not that they don't have like a lot of like text, but it's mainly focused on the imagery. With this one, it's really focused on the story, and there's a lot of like writing, which sounds dumb because it's like a book, but with graphic novels there's a variation of like imagery and writing and what have you, because it's, you know, I just think the illustrations are really cool. It's a lot to read. 1984 in 2024 is kind of a lot, but I really am loving it. I like the concept too of the whole book is in like drawn in reds and blacks and grays, essentially to make it seem, well, it's 1984, to make it seem bleak, and I just think that concept is really cool. It is a little bit harder to get through just because of the content and it being like censorship essentially is the main theme here, and people they don't deem to have their same ideas, or who they think are getting too smart and are not following the thought police are taken away. And so it's like kind of like and like this with the idea of so many books being banned in 2024, I really think they should unban this one and just read it. If they read this instead of banning books, it might be helpful for them to just like essentially see what's happening. It's just so cool. If you have the opportunity to, if you've read 1984, let me know what you think down below. But you should also check out the graphic novel, because this itself is really cool. I've been really into graphic novels recently because I've been in like kind of, not a reading slump, but just kind of like I don't know what I want to read. And I've been reading Democracy in Chains, but it's kind of got a lot. And so I've just been like reading chapter by chapter of that one, and I wanted something else that was a little bit different. And so I've been gravitating then towards graphic novels, and the 1984 one, I think it would be safe to say that this is my favorite one that I've read out of all of the ones I've read so far. I'm trying to think. I had Anne of Green Gables, I had the one on Walden, I don't know, I've read a few, but this one's my favorite. So between reading 1984 and then seeing people on TikTok talking about how they don't want books to be political, I was like, I need to talk about it this week. So that is this week's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I didn't ramble too much and that it was making sense. Essentially, I just want to encourage you to read books and talk with your family about and friends about reading books, and yeah, we should just all be reading more and enjoying reading. I love you all, and I will see you on Friday with a brand new video. Bye!